my name is Ronak and you're watching VectoArt. So in today's video we will learn how to create this beautiful looking dashboard using handy controls in Blend for Visual Studio. So without any further ado, let's get started. And yes, if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do subscribe to my channel and also hit the bell icon for future notifications. And if you're interested in downloading this code, go to the description and download the source code from GitHub. So let's first start by creating a new project in Blend for Visual Studio. Select the project type as WPF app using .NET framework and click on next. Once that is done, let's give this project a name and click on create. Many of you were asking that you cannot find the triggers panel. So to find the triggers panel, the project type should be WPF with .NET framework, and also the tool should be Blend for Visual Studio. If those two things are in place, then you can go to views and then click on the triggers window. Now let's go to tools and NuGet package and manage NuGet packages. So let's browse for handy controls and select the second option and select the project and install. Once the installation is done, accept the terms and conditions. Once it is done, it will pop up a readme file which will help you in installing or implementing the namespace to the application. So the NuGet package is successfully installed. So now it'll open this readme file. So let's first copy this namespace and go to the main window, and on the top before the grid, let's paste this namespace. Then let's copy the whole content between the application tag and go to the solution explorer and open the app.xaml file and paste it in this application resources. Yeah, now let's close this tab and build the application. The build is successful. Now let's select the window and change couple of properties to make this window borderless. So open the properties panel, selecting the window, and let's first change the width and height of the application or the window. So let's change the width to 900 and the height to 500. Let's scroll down and change the allow transparency checkbox to true, and doing that it will remove the window style to none. And now let's make the window startup location to center screen. Yeah, that's it. So let's run the application once and see if the window size is ideal. I think it should be a little more bigger, or to say we have to change the height of the window. So let's go back to the properties panel and change the height to 550. Yeah, so that's done. So let's minimize the SAML part and zoom in the window. And the first thing that we will do is we will add a rectangle to the grid, to the main grid. Let's add the rectangle. I'm not taking any measurements here, I'm just roughly adding them since this is just a mock-up design. So let's change the color to say pale yellow and remove the stroke. Now let's add a stack panel on top of the rectangle. Okay, now we will add a text block on top of the stack panel. Just include that or make that text block a child of the stack panel so that it automatically aligns itself, and also as we go on adding the elements inside the stack panel, it will stack itself. So let's change the text block text and change a couple of text properties of the text box. You can also add a logo here if you have an image. Here I'm just adding some text. Also I want the text to be in the center, so let's change the alignment to center. Let's change the foreground to red just to change the look and feel. Also I'll change the size of that asterisk. Now let's increase the size of the text block and give it a margin on top so that it is not completely on top. I think that's fine. Now let's add a button inside the stack panel, and you can see that since the alignment is orientation is vertical, it is automatically stacking vertically. Now I have added a margin to that, and now I'll remove the background and border brush for that button. Let's change the content as dashboard. And now let's go to the button template. Before that, let's change the font to semi bold. And now let's select the button, right click and edit template, edit a copy. Always edit a copy in this scenario. If you edit a current, then whatever template these other buttons are using, it will change all those buttons. So in this scenario we are going to edit a copy and select the stack panel, expand it, and in the stack panel we will add a image. So select the stack panel, search for the image and draw an image inside the stack panel. Just change the position and also change the width and height of the image. Now let's select an image and see how it looks. So these icons I have downloaded from icons8.com. The link is in the description. Please check it out. So I have selected this image. Let's make the image a little smaller, maybe 15 points. Yeah, and let's go back to the window now. So to go back to the window, you can click on the button template icon there on the panel. And now I'm speeding up the process so that this video doesn't get too long, and I am repeating the same process for all the buttons, editing a copy and adding an image and changing the image by selecting it or browsing it. So I'll do this process for each button that I've added, and every time I edit a copy. So that now I'm done. I'll just change the text or the content of the buttons. So yeah, that's it. So this is done. So now next we will add a rectangle. Before that, let's change the margin for the last button, that is the settings button. And now we will add a rectangle, a rounded rectangle, which will basically serve as a highlight, or which will show the active button. Here I am not adding a tab panel or a tab control, but you can do it. You can add a tab control, or you can add multiple panels inside one panel and hide and show them based on the button click. So here based on the button clicks, I will change the highlight or the rectangle position to the button position. So let me change couple of properties of this button, and I have repositioned it so that it goes behind the buttons. So after doing that, let's make some final small changes. And now let's go to the code behind. You can either do this, or you can go to the Solution Explorer and expand the Windows control, my main window control, and go to the code file. Here in the code file, I will first rename the rectangle that I have created. So I'll go to the XAML file, and here on the bottom, before that, let's minimize this resources section, and here at the bottom I have that rectangle which I added. I will give it a name. After giving it a name, I will go back to the designer and use this name to change the position of the rectangle. So in the initialize component, first let me set the initial position of the rectangle. So the rectangle's margin, so we are going to set the margin equal to new thickness, and in that we will set the margin. So let's just add the numbers here without the double quotes, and let's add a bracket, and yeah, so this is the initial position. Just let's run the application and see if the margins are right. I think it has to be a little down, and it should also have a left margin as well. So let's change the margins. So let's change the margin to say 85. 85 because the upper control, the text block also has a margin. So considering that, I have given this as 85, and also I am setting the left margin as 20 so that it moves inside the white area a little. And now I think it is perfect. So let's run the application and see it once. Yeah, so all you have to do is add button clicks. For each button click we have to set this margin according to the button position, and I am now speeding up the process so that again it doesn't get too long. So if you want to see this process slowly, then you can also go to YouTube's player and change this playback speed so that you can see this slowly. I'm noting down the rectangle's position margins here when I am moving it, so that I can later add the same margin to all the button click events. So now you can see that it works perfectly fine. So on this button clicks, you can also hide and show other panels. Right now I will be designing only the dashboard panel. So yeah. Now next we'll add a search box on top. So this search box is another control from Handy Controls, and this is a beautiful control UI library which will provide you pre-designed controls which are very helpful. So before that, let me change the color of the white panel that I had, or the rectangle, main rectangle, and also I will add the same color to the highlight rectangle box that we created. So now I am adding this search box. The documentation for this search box is in the description. So if you go to that link, you will see that it has all the controls, number of controls. You can explore them. So I'm adding this rectangle on top, and I will move this rectangle below that search box. Doing so, it has changed its position. So let me find it. Yeah, it is here. So let me move it back on top below the search bar, and let's change the fill to white. Now yeah, so now let's go to the documentation, and I will show you what and all options we have there. Before that, let's add two buttons. One is for the notification and one is for the profile. So let's change the background and border brush to empty or no brush, and edit the template and edit a copy. Go to the stack panel and remove the content presenter and the path main, and add a image inside the stack panel. Now browse an image for that and select the source and click on OK. Let's change the width and height of this. Actually that is not the right icon, but I had this icon. This is just to show you how you can set the icon. So now I'm adding this button. Let's change the width and height, make it a square button, make it a little smaller. And now let's do the same process. Let's right click, edit a template, edit a copy, and go to the border. And in the border, let's remove this or change it to a local value first, and then change the radius to 50. So we have a rounded button now, and inside the stack panel, remove the content presenter and the path main, and select the stack panel. And now go back to the window and change the background to image. Okay, so now we have a rounded button. So the search bar that we have added, it does not have a placeholder text. It is just text. So now here in the documentation, if you go to extended controls, you will see the search bar, and for that search bar you will see a lot of documentation here. So let's scroll down and take one of the search bars from here. So this is the placeholder property. So I want a text box, search box like that. So let's take one of the search bar example from the documentation. Let's copy it. And paste it in our existing search box over that. And let's remove some of the properties like these info element necessary property. We'll remove that. It is for validation. Right now for the search box I do not want any validation. And you can see that we have a title as well, which we do not want. So let's remove that title as well, and we just need a placeholder. Let's change the placeholder text to search. And yeah, so there you see that we have a small placeholder text called search, and which will disappear once you start typing inside that search box. So we are done with that search box. Now let's add one more control from the handy controls, that is the card control. It is a simple rectangle kind of control with predefined rounded edges and borders. So let's resize this card, remove the content and make copies of it. Position it accordingly, and then add some more cards below. So let's start by designing the first card, and the later cards will be showing you how to design them. So let's start by the first one. So here let's add a text block first. Add it outside the card. Sometimes there are some bugs in this UI framework. When we start adding inside the card, it does not allow it, somehow hides the control that is added. So that's the reason I'm adding it to the grid first and then moving it inside the card. So the first thing that I've added is a title to the card, and now use copying the text block again to show the value. Okay, and next let's change this font size and the font itself. Let's make another copy of that text block. Let's add some text. And now we will use one more control, that is the wave progress bar. It is a progress bar which is in the form of a wave inside a bowl. So let's copy that sample code and go to our SAML and paste it below. Once you place it, you can take that and position it accordingly inside the card. Okay, so place it here, and let's go to the properties and set a value by removing or changing it to a local value, and change the value to 80. So now you can see this nice looking animation of a wave. So let's select this all and paste it on other cards and change the content. So I'm speeding up the process again. So instead of a wave progress bar, I've used a regular progress bar here, so don't get confused. Now let's change the content for the other tiles and change the wave progress bar colors as well. If you don't want these progress bars, you can also make use of live charts for WPF. It is another NuGet package. You can go to the NuGet package and search for live charts, and it has also a good documentation. You can check out my previous videos for live chart tutorials. Now I will start with the other cards. So likewise, like I've designed the other the cards that are on the top, I will do the same process here. I will add a title, I will add a subtitle or a small info element here next to it, and this will show you the year. You can also have a drop down here instead of a text block, wherein you can traverse to or look through various years. But here, since this is just a demonstration, I have added a text block. So I have added a path or a line control and changing the color of the fill and the stroke. Now I will again make use of the card element and show you the top scorers. So let's add a card first. Okay, remove the card content. Change the color to gray. And now let's zoom and start designing this card. So let's search for an image first. Draw the image on the card. So you can see that drawn it inside the card, which I don't want. I want it to be outside the card. and inside the main grid. So doing so, it has changed its position and margin. So let's place it again, and now I will go to the width and height and change the width and height to 35 points, and also browse and so image. Let's position it, give this top scorer a name and the academy information and the percentage that he has scored, and a button below. So a pretty straightforward design. So let's do it quickly. Let's change the text. And in the next line, let's add the academy information or the university information. Let's add the percentage or the score. Let's change the size of that academy information to 8 points. And also change this font size to say 16. Yeah. Okay, now there's only one thing left, that is the button below that. So let's add a button here. Go to the button properties, change the background to say white, and change the opacity to say 30 points or maybe 50. Yeah, and change the foreground to white. So let's change the foreground text to first, and I think we'll have to reduce the size of the font. Okay, and maybe increase the size of the button a little and change it to bold. Also remove the border brush for the button, and now all we have to do is we have to select all the card controls and group it into one, and then make a copy. And let's make one more copy, and now let's do this minor changes like changing the score, changing the color, and changing the text. Once that is done, let's add a summary information below. So let's take a text block, draw it on the card on the main grid, and add some placeholder text here. I have already copied some placeholder text from the internet. I have copied some placeholder text. I will just place it here after this first title. Yeah, so let's change the foreground to dark gray, and let's add some ellipses here. Okay, so that is done. So let's move on to the last two cards. Let's make use of the existing elements. Let's copy it and paste it here. Remove that text block on the right, and before that let's change the text of the text block on the left. Increase its size. Remove this, and instead of this let's add a button which will serve its purpose, which is the view all button. So let's change the width and height of this button, and also change the foreground background colors of this. So I'm removing the foreground and background background brush, and changing the foreground color to blue. Now I'll make use of the wave controls. So I want something like this, so let me get rid of the other two. Yeah, let me delete these two. I think I will delete them, and instead of a linear wave, let's go back to the design documentation, and this time let's use a gradient looking wave. So let's copy that and paste it on top of the existing on the SAML. So here we have the pasted code or the control. So place it here, delete the existing one, and here you can see we have also have the title or the label for this wave. So let's place it. Let's change the font size a little. Before that, let's change it to local value and change the value of that wave, and also remove the width to change the width from auto, and change the font size to say 20. Okay, now let's move this control a little down. Let's add a title to this. So let's copy the existing text block, change the text, change the text properties like font size, and let's align it to center. Okay, so now let's make copies of this, and I'm speeding up the process again. All I will do is change the text and change the value and change the color of the gradient. So let's make copies of this again and paste it on the below card. So there you go guys, our design is ready. Hope you all liked watching this video. If you do, please do subscribe to my channel, and like, share and subscribe to my channel. Thank you guys. Bye bye.